again, like, you've said in the past that when, you and your co-founders went to investors, many of them laughed at your idea of the product. Why was that? Like, it looks like financial services, was it because it was too crowded? Was it because they couldn't make sense of what your vision was? And I think the corollary that you said is, therefore, it's super important to know what your customers want. So what did you know that, the VCs were unable to see?
No, I think, it's not their fault. It's like they had seen a lot of, and it happened in the previous startup also, they have seen a lot of failures in this space, right? So when I was at Flipkart and I was doing research of mutual fund apps, there were like 40 apps I counted. I shared with my team also, 40. And some of them were funded as well, right? So we were like, अब just imagine कि 40 apps देख चुका हूँ मैं, and then 41st is coming. Decent team, अच्छा Flipkart में काम किया है, थोड़ा 4 लड़के हैं, they are good and so on. But why 41st will work and why 40 startups will not work and so on, right? So that's how I think you will see what was contrarian was the thesis of delayed monetization, like that another contrarian was that this product is very high retention product. Again, coming from like have been building consumer products, so in consumer product, again, low CAC, high retention, high engagement, customer love. If these 4 things are taken care of, the probability of monetization is very high. It's just that delayed. But these 4 are very important. If you're high CAC and you say, I will do delayed monetization, sorry. If you have very low engagement or low in retention and you say delayed monetization, does not work out because you're building a leaky bucket. Or if your customers don't love you, right? Or if your operation costs are very high, that does not work, right? And typically when you raise money, you want to spend. And we were like, money was always in the bank. We never spend money.
Welcome to the 27th episode of First Principles. If only my voice wasn't a complete giveaway, I would pretend to be Rohin for a day. But as you can tell, I'm not. I am Snigdha from the Ken's podcast team, and Rohin is down with a sore throat this week. So I thought I would take a few minutes of your time today to introduce you to the episode before we get to the actual chat between Lalit Keshre, the co-founder of Groww, and your host, Rohin Dharmakumar. You've probably heard of Groww. It is a financial services platform that was last valued at $3 billion. This year, the Groww team traveled to a bunch of Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in South India to talk to users of the product. In fact, so far they've been to 100 such cities. In this chat with Rohin, Lalit describes what typically happens during these visits. Take a city like Indore in Madhya Pradesh, for example. Hundreds of Groww users travel really long distances just to talk to the Groww team. They want to know things like how to use the app for something as simple as investing in an SIP that has actually changed their lives. Lalit tells Rohin how the same people have told so many of their friends and family members about Groww. Lalit says that they're excited, grateful, and most importantly, they are emotional. And then he says that there's just one word that can describe what is happening between Groww and its users. And the word is love. Love for customers, love for the product, and love for good financial services. You'll see how this is a recurring theme in this conversation. Customers are at the center of Groww. And Lalit is a man who is sure of many things, like the fact that he is good at hiring, or about how to build an effective direct-to-consumer or D2C product. He knows the first principles for solving complex problems like the back of his hand. And what he's unsure of, he's not too worried about. In his stoic, cool manner, he goes on to talk about why financial services are a basic necessity, how to create delight with your product, understanding the difference between what your customer wants and what they will actually use, why discipline is overrated, and a simple process that Lalit uses to hire the right people for his organization. For this episode, we have the complete transcript available already. You will find the link to it in the show notes. Also, you can now click on the chapters in the show notes of this episode to jump straight to sections that you want to listen to. And I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did.
Lalit, I want to start by talking about the Maslow's hierarchy. In 1943, Abraham Maslow came up with this hierarchy of, I think, human needs and wants. At the bottom was what he called physiological needs, right? Which is food, shelter, clothing. Above that was security, job, a house, personal security, financial security, etc. And above that was like, more evolved stuff like love and belonging, esteem, and right at the top was self-actualization. Over the years, many people, the criticism is that the pyramid is actually wrong because it's more like waves. You can actually be doing multiple things at the same time, but broadly the structure, people agree with it, that you need to satisfy your physiological needs before you get to basic needs, etc. Right? The reason I say this, because right at the bottom of the Maslow's pyramid sits food, shelter, and clothing, which in Hindi is roti, kapda, or makan. And one of the things you say is roti, kapda, makan, or financial services, right? Which is roti, kapda, food, clothing, shelter, and financial services.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, why is that? Are you implying that financial services is actually the next need after roti, kapda, makan? I mean, where does that come from?
See, Rohin, be it roti, kapda, makan, or the second level or the third level, you need money, right? And financial services were actually invented before money. So credit was invented before money. Insurance was one way. I mean, in one way it was later, but that's also very kind of old and so on. So financial services is kind of future services. So human beings, when they kind of evolved from hunter gatherers to farmers, and they start accumulating, and once you start accumulating, you start doing that for future. And then when human beings started understanding this word future, that's where financial services came into being, right? So roti, kapda, makan, and financial services, because you need now you need basically financial services for all these three things. And beyond this also, if you look at your level 2, level 3 in you need to get a job, you need education, you need money, and food, even food, like as you kind of keep growing, you need to have better quality of food, like, and so on, right? So that's kind of our thought process, why everybody needs financial services, and especially in India, right? And I think that's kind of.
When you say roti, kapda, makan, or financial services, what do you imply by financial services? Because as a layperson, we see news that, look, I mean, India has done a tremendous job over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years in getting banking to the poor.
Yeah.
Or let's say UPI in terms of, payments between like people, or direct benefit transfers, etc. So when you as Groww say, or financial services, what do you imply by financial services?
See, there are only three things, right? One is, as I said, like when you start gathering things for future, that's like wealth. Wealth is accumulation for future. Second thing is, you don't have wealth, so you get some extra leverage, you get cash for future. That is the credit, right? So if you're starting a business, so again, for future growth, you are taking credit. And the third one is to protect the future, which is insurance. So these are the three major things which kind of define financial services, in my opinion.
And are these three areas that Groww is strategically interested in,
right,
as well?
So if you take today's snapshot, Groww is different. If you take 4 years back, a snapshot, Groww was different. And
What was
that's
it? What was 4 years ago?
so
of the Groww?
7 years. So we started 7.5 years back, and idea was to build like this tech financial services company, which is not push based but pull based, where customers get what they deserve. Really, right? It's not kind of how today's how industry was at that time, right? So idea was to build this, but we thought don't you can't do everything. If you want to build very very meaningful stuff, then you can't do everything in one shot. So you create like a multi-decade kind of plan, right? And you start with something, and mutual fund distribution was something that we started with. So first 4 years, Groww was looked at as a mutual fund distributor, which is how if you look at again current snapshot, it would be looked at differently and so on, right?
So what is it now?
So right now it's kind of we have a bunch of things. If you look at the narrative right now outside, it's more like a stock investing platform. But then mutual fund is also very large. It's kind of taken like a shadow in terms of the world. But they're also like we have a very large team working there. We have credit, we have AMC we recently acquired, and so on. So story will play out like.
So, I mean, as the founder, how do you see what Groww is today? How would you describe what Groww is today versus 4 years ago? 4 years ago, you're saying a lot of people saw Groww largely as a mutual fund platform.
Yeah.
What do you think it is today?
So today, it is like a it's like a multi-product platform, right? Where customers there's a wealth is a very large component right now, and then other components are smaller, but a lot of focus on them as well. We are one of the most loved platforms in the country today, right? Most of the growth happens word of mouth, and we want to continue being like that. It's a very kind of well received brand by the customer, especially in tier 2, tier 3, right? Most of the customers come, so everything is DIY. We don't kind of we don't have like physical interfaces or anything, like it's customers use the product, they tell about it to their friends and so on. And yeah.
And what about, let's say, 5 years later, 7 years later? Because you said earlier that you will be something different.
Yeah.
In the
5-7 years later, we will have a lot more services for the customers, right? So our vision is like, when it comes to financial services, our customers should get the best what they deserve, and then we provide them everything for that target customer, right?
Got it. One of the things you also say, again, like in context with Roti Kapda Makan or financial services, and I think you've said this multiple times, is that Groww's mission is to democratize financial services.
Yes.
When you say that, are you referring largely to access? When you say democratize, in what sense do you imply the word democratize?
Yeah, so access is, of course, one of the most important thing, because India needs access today. If you look at the penetration, and that's also a leverage for companies like Groww to kind of continue growing, right? Access is a very large kind of, especially again, we are always speaking in context of India, right? So access is the most important thing, but it also is also delight, and it's also about transparency and everything, right? So today we are sitting in like a very prime area of Bangalore, right? And the kind of financial services people get here is very different from, let's say, somebody in tier 2, tier 3 city, or we actually live in a bubble here in Bangalore, right? So
I have heard that multiple times about the Bangalore bubble.
Yeah. So that's what democratization means, right? I mean, different products for different people, but accessible to everybody.
Good. Now, if I reconcile what we've just discussed, right, like, that your ultimate aim is to essentially offer as many of the financial products to as many customers as possible in a transparent manner, in a way that is trustworthy, etc. Now, this is your ambition and goal. Now, on the other hand, if you step back and look at the financial services market, there are banks, there are insurance companies, there are other platforms, etc. Right? So now, it stands to reason that as a customer, you will have to make a choice some point about who do you go with. So what is your thesis on how this plays out? Because everybody at the end of the day wants to do lending. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to distribute insurance. Everybody wants to distribute mutual funds. Everybody wants to become a stockbroking. If in fact, if I remember correctly, PhonePe has also launched stockbroking services, etc. And I'm sure many will, right? So it looks like everybody is converging to all of the spaces and opportunities. So when this happens from the supply side, what happens on the demand side? What happens on the consumer side?
So it is not necessarily bad.
No,
Rohin.
I'm
So
not saying it's bad. I'm saying how
right,
does it play out?
So the kind of opportunity size that we have in India, I think it's going to be win-win for everybody. And if you look at nuances, right? So on the top, it would look like everybody going towards everything and so on. But then there are well-defined segments for everybody, right? And there would be, of course, there would be like, as you grow bigger and bigger, you kind of start stepping into other territories and so on. But I think the runway is like very, very huge, right? And as I said, like for our customer segment is very well defined, right? As I said, like DIY, mostly like will get rich in the future, but are not like, they are like young, who want control, who want to take control of their own kind of lives, who don't want to visit to some branches and so on. So that's kind of different segment, right? And there are people who are focusing on other different kind of segments and so on.
Tell us a bit about Groww. I mean, how big is it? I know you guys you said you're 7.5 years old.
Yes.
Give us a sense of Grow's scale.
So we would be around 10 million monthly active. And around 1,200 folks today in the team.
Is that largely in Bangalore?
So we have multiple of yes, you're right, largely in Bangalore. So mostly tech product, kind of tech product design, business, everything is in Bangalore. Compliance and operations is in Bombay, and support is split between Bombay and Bangalore.
Got it. And how much, I mean, you've raised a boatload of venture capital. How much have you raised in total, and what were you last valued at?
So we have raised so far, I think, around 390 million. In the last round that we raised in 21, and we were valued around $3 billion.
Okay, great. To kind of, before I move on from Groww, I mean, if I were to ask you once again, actually, let me switch that question, right? You're many things today. And one of the things that you keep talking about is the customer love for Groww as a platform and your clarity on who your customer segment is. Could you give us a sense of what is a typical user's, let's say when somebody discovers Groww and when they sign up, what do they do? I mean, you said they're largely in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Could you give us a sense of a real kind of example of someone who discovers Groww, joins Groww? What do they do?
Yeah. No, so just now we met Rohit, right? And
yes,
he
that's
was
right. Like we are at Studio Sugarline and like, Rohit,
so tier 2, tier 3, because the base is very large in tier 2, tier 3, but tier 1 also there are a lot of customers. So typically, see, what's the customer journey like? So your friend is kind of maybe investing and, into mutual funds or stocks, and then they would kind of tell you, Rohin, why don't you try this? Like, or you are looking for you have high intent and you are asking around, what should I do? I don't know. And then you will get an answer, okay, download Groww, and then you can start using it and so on. So there's a very delightful journey we have tried to kind of, that's most of the time what we do, right? Basically.
And like, we've all heard of this thing of like, the initial moment of magic or truth when somebody, like, let's say Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you friend people, that's when.
Yeah.
So when somebody downloads the Groww app and signs in and stuff like that, what are some of the first things that they end up doing that, delight them?
So there are typically, see, Groww is more like right now so people come here to invest, right? To do a transaction basically, right? And that's what customers' intent is. Now, what we have done is, from customers' intent to fulfilling that intent, what are the barriers? Remove all those barriers. What are the anxiety factors? Remove that anxiety. where can you provide delight to customer in that journey?
Could I ask you for examples, like the barriers or
Yeah, so
anxiety,
some of them are
etc.?
secrets as well, but like
Sure.
just I mean, try onboarding on Grow, and it would be fastest. And there are very very small things which where you get stuck and so on. We help there and so on, right? And then discovery of everything, right? You can search anything, any product on Grow, and then you can buy. Transaction is very very kind of seamless and so on. So uh, it's like a journey is made of many many small things, and you focus on every single small thing to kind of make it very very seamless for the customer. So that's and then that kind of emerge out as a like overall customer delight.
Got it. Talking about markets, you said your it's the DIY segment, it's the young folks who tomorrow will become investors or larger investors, so to speak, right? And one of the debates that's been running in India for the last maybe 12
They are
months
already larger investors, but they'll become very very
potentially
wealthy because they are with Grow.
and they'll stay invested, right, and compounding
Yeah,
and all of that.
yeah,
My question was about the overall size of the market.
yeah.
A debate that started happening much more frequently over the last year and a half is that what is the true size of India's market for various products, digital products, etc., and stuff like that. And I think there have been conversations that is it 5 million, is it 10 to 15 million, and I think you've said that no, it's actually it's much higher. Sorry, 30 to 40 crore is the number that you've mentioned of potential lower middle income classes that could become financial services investors, right? Now, the interesting thing here is that many of them today are not in a place where they can
Yeah.
become invest in wealth, savings, etc., and stuff like that. Therefore, as a business, when you try to acquire such customers, you always have to make this trade off between, but they may not be profitable for me today. They may be profitable only in, let's say, 2 years or 3 years. How do you at Grow make that trade off? That, like, who do you go after today? And if you get, because you can't separate out that always,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you will attract customers who are aspirational and who may not contribute profits to you today, but in 2 years will. How do you make
Yes.
this call as a business?
So, Rohin, so at a business level, at a company level, we don't set financial targets to anybody, right? There is a small team which works on monetization and everything, but the bigger objective of the entire company is to kind of provide better customer service, provide better customer experience, and these kind of things. The way we abstracted, so profits are important for the business, but there are few things which I'll tell you, like which kind of makes us think very long term, right? So as I said, like wealth will continue growing, and you will make money sometime, and of course we are making money right now, but in general, if you take care of few things, if you take care of few things and then you keep them aside and then just focus on this customer experience and then continue building, that's how we think about it. And what are those few things? Number one, think very long term. And thinking long term means surviving long term. That's why you raise money also and those kind of things, right? Number two, keep customer super happy, right? So when customer is happy, they talk about you, growth happens. Um, they talk to other customers, they stay with you, high retention, right? High engagement, and so on. Number three, keep CAC very low, right? Keep not just in
It's the
general
cost of
CAC,
customer
cost of
acquisition.
customer acquisition, not just cost of, but in general, expense of running business very low because you want to survive longer, right? And if you're following the strategy of delayed monetization, I think these three are very very important. Thinking long term, keeping your costs very very low, and then keeping customers really happy, right? Super happy with you, and then kind of you continue building.
Hello, I'm back again. But I promise I won't be more than a minute. Plus, I'm here to tell you something really interesting. I host and produce Daybreak, a thrice a week podcast where I tell you one important news story that is worth understanding and worth your time. In the Wednesday episode, I spoke about the mass employee exodus from the government think tank Niti Aayog. It is a fascinating story about a man who is famous for his India has too much democracy comment. But the funny thing is that his tenure as the CEO of Niti Aayog was known to be super democratic. I'm talking about Amitabh Kant. Under him, the think tank was an empowered, bustling organization brimming with ideas. But last year, his tenure ended. And ever since, Niti Aayog has seen 4 out of every 10 of its employees walk out. What is going on? Tune into the episode to find out. But not before you're done listening to this one, of course. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and now back to Rohin and Lalit.
You said that you don't set financial targets at Grow. What else kind of goals or objectives do you set then?
So
Do you
we-
have North Star goals as an
Yeah.
organization?
So we all these things, customer engagement,
So what,
retention,
is it
customer
like,
love,
you know,
NPS. NPS is one of the
NPS is a-
NPS is like very, very sacrosanct. Like it's like there's a waterfall model of NPS, and every pod. So Grow is divided into multiple pods. Pods are like small startups within kind of Grow.
So it's like a business line which operates
So
sort
we
of
don't call it
independently.
business line, we call it product, right? So let's say mutual fund is a product. Now mutual fund pod will have a product manager, will have developers, will have designer, will have business guy, will have a operations guy, and then and so on, right? And they come up with, so there's a long-term company strategy. Okay, mutual fund, we need to be the best, we need to be the number one, and so on and so on. And then these pods come up with their quarterly OKRs for kind of what they are doing.
So
in
you
that
run
quarter.
an OKR system at the organization.
It's very loosely defined OKR. We don't follow like very serious OKR, because loosely defined, because in a startup things change so fast. You can't be kind of running like an MNC kind of OKR. So where was I? So yeah, that
Yeah,
so
the pods
so
and
then they will have
NPS.
like objectives. So their objective NPS. So NPS, the company level NPS is kind of then a waterfall model goes down to that pod. Okay, for this pod, what are the most important things for the customer right now? They build those. What is the demand coming from customer, right? So you're looking at support tickets, and you're looking at and understanding what is, and then your metrics are also like, okay, how many customers, and how what is the retention, and all those kind of things. In some of the pods there is no business at all. Like mutual fund is free, right? It is, we don't make any money on
So you're just
mutual
looking
fund
at what
distribution.
engagement, customer satisfaction, usage,
Yes,
retention, etc.
yes. And then there are some businesses where again NPS is across everywhere.
So is NPS the most sacrosanct metric at Grow?
For most of the people, yes, right? As a company, of course, you have other metrics like revenue becomes important, profits become important, return on equity becomes important.
Got
all
it.
those
But
kind of
but
things.
if there is a metric that most people in the organization understand and converse around, it's that NPS.
Yes, yes.
Now, obviously, you by just running Grow for 7.5 years, operating in such a large set of customer segments, etc., you would be seeing customer behavior on a regular basis.
Yes.
Right. And are there interesting instances where you come across, and since you must be doing surveys, feedback, so you're getting what people are saying they want.
Yeah.
And there is often this dichotomy between what people say they want and what people actually want as revealed through their usage. And in sector after sector, there is always this thing. If you ask someone, here's a product, what would you pay for it? They will say X. But in reality, when you see people using that product and actually paying for it, it might be Y.
Yeah.
So are there interesting instances where you see in the larger space of financial services and access to financial services, where this difference between what people say what they want or will be willing to pay for, but what they actually do? Do you see interesting?
Yeah, we have seen a bunch of these things. I can give you some examples. So this is what art of product management is, right? Like, you're figuring out what customers really want. So what customers say is different from what they think, is different from what they feel, and different from what they do, right? All four are kind of very, very different things. So how do we solve it? So some things are very, very straightforward. Now, what are straightforward things? Like where you can see customer is directly stuck, right? So for example, let's say you're onboarding and there's a bank verification step and their customer is stuck. Now that's like, it's very simple, right? You don't need a lot of science. You need to solve that. It gives customer happiness. It gives, like, it removes barrier. But there are certain things which are not so easy to answer. Like, for example, will customer prefer call or email or chat, or something else, like, and what is the best way to serve customer? There you so it's not very tough, but it's in between, like, you can still solve it. Okay, you can find out, if you look at the data of this of certain cohort of customer, these are the cohort of customers who like to get, and then you can apply some machine learning and so on, and so, okay, if this Rohin is, then you serve this way, and if this guy is coming, then you
Got it.
so that's just medium complexity. The toughest complexity is, let's say you want to do something, let's
An
say
actual transaction. And-
transaction, or you want to launch a new product. So
Got it.
customer will tell, I need this, and then your product manager will say, oh, we are customer focused, let's build this, and then you launch that, and
The
their
customers are not using
it, right? So that's the third kind of, the most complex kind of things, and that's like more of an art, to find out what is the real customer demand and what does it really mean for the customers. And we have done a lot of such things. So there are a lot of hacks we have used, right? So one of them is, like, you launch it for a certain segment, and after launching,
So you
just
pilot it in a smaller
thing and see what is the demand. And one hacker says, remove it for a day or 2 days. Let's see if
Actually,
customers
that's one of the most powerful things, right? That if you take something away, how many people will miss it
will miss
and
it,
ask
right?
for it?
And
Is there an example of like a feature that you've done that with, and something that it taught you?
It's a bit kind of sensitive, but let me share anyways, right? So we launched digital gold. Digital gold, suddenly lot of people came and started offering digital gold and so on, and there was a huge discussion inside the team. Should we launch digital gold? Because digital gold, so there are 4 ways you can buy gold, and digital gold is
At the bottom.
It's the bottom, like, it's
Right,
not
digital
a good,
gold, I mean, as I understand it, right, digital gold is you're paying money. You don't actually hold physical gold, but
you're not investing it, you're buying gold with you're paying GST for it. And
correct.
then
So
there is this
your net is actually lower because
very
of the
low, yeah.
transaction.
So it's
Got
like
it.
not a good way to invest and so on. And there was a huge discussion in the team, and there was a camp which say it's a bad product for customer. And our like, never launch anything which is bad for customer. So there was a camp which says that, there's other camps which say customer is needing it. Every day support pe customers are asking, why is Groww not launching digital gold and so on. And we thought, like, how to decide this now? This is the third kind of challenge, right? Because you don't even know whether customer will really buy that or not. And then we thought, okay, let's launch it, and we launched, and then through a segment, and then came up with very nice designs and launched and so on. And then, by the way, right? So the gold, you can buy SGB. That's one of the best ways. Then there is ETF. Then there's Groww Mutual Fund, and then there's digital gold. And now what is it called? Electronic gold, EGR, is also traded, which is higher ticket size and so on. So we launched, and then we removed it. So there were a few 100,000 customers who were buying gold, and we removed it, and we clearly sent a message that it's basically whoever has invested, they can see and they can redeem, but new investments are barred. And we did not see much resistance, because what we realized is our customers know what is the better form of investing in gold, and they were already kind of
So
aware
it's a
about it.
self-selection. But you're saying that the customers that you had acquired already were intelligent enough to know,
See,
or
yeah,
like
so-
evolved enough to know that like this is not a good product. So therefore, it was easier for you to make that call.
Yeah. So if you look at our base, right, if you look at a gross customer base and overall Groww customer, you would actually find very aware customer, very prudent customer. And it's self, as you said, right? We don't push products, right? So it's mostly intent based, right? I want to, and some typically who thinks, okay, I want to invest and I want to do my financials and so on. They are typically aware folks. They are knowledgeable folks and so on, right?
Education on this topic, I mean, this point of self-selection, educating customers is a very big part of what
Yes.
Grow is. I've seen your YouTube channels, like your explainers, etc., and stuff like that. And there's like a lot of, and connected to this is something that you've said, I think, in the past. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And I think you had said that, look, we want to give people the option and the awareness and the education and let them decide.
Yes.
We don't want to become advisors to them and tell them that this is what you need to buy. Is that broadly
Yes.
correct? Right. So to go back to that point, I mean, the way I see it is that you're attracting people as customers who are already aware, and then you're also educating them. So education is a very awareness is a very strong part of your
Yes.
feedback loop at Grow.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Just one last thing before we move on from this section. Again, I'll come back to a quote that you'd made in the past, that if you have a very good customer insight into a large market, then funding should be the last of your worries. I think you must have said that. If you have a great customer insight into a large market,
Yeah.
then funding is the last of your worries. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. if you don't remember it, let's not go
Yeah.
into it, because I don't want you to push into it. Right?
Yeah.
I think this overall section we talked about Grow, right? Would it be fair if I kind of I try to capture the essence of a particular section, and the feel that I get is that the only way to name this section is like Roti Kapda Makan or financial services. That is, democratizing finance is the way you would look at Grow and the overall Grow vision and journey, right? That will continue to be the one that guides you.
Yeah, so I would look at it as this, like, I think for the growth of people, like, so millennials, Gen Zs, and, even older folks and so on, capital plays a big role in your growth, right? And Grow wants to be that enabler to kind of improve the lives of people by solving for this one piece of thing, right? Which is kind of managing money in various ways, and
Financial security.
services, financial security, right? So that is something that we want to stand for, like, and that is what actual, like, that is I think the biggest enabler for growth of people, right? So yeah, become like the most loved brand for customers, and they think that we are for them, basically. Yeah, we are on their side, basically, right?
You use the word love multiple times. So one last question on this is, what makes people love a financial services brand?
So many things.
Because in general, as a layperson, nobody, financial services brands are not brands that you normally associate emotions like love from.
No,
Like,
we are changing that. So you
exactly.
should look
That's
at
why I'm asking you what
So
makes a
if-
customer
so
love
we-
a financial
so
services
we-
brand.
So when we travel to tier 2, tier 3 cities. In Feb, we went to UP. In last month, we went to South India trip and so on. And we also have this Ab India Karega Invest, where we visit, like, so we have completed 100 cities so far. And when we go there, right, and meet people, and the kind of emotions that come out, right, is what love is, like, basically, right? Because they kind of open up completely. They come from far off places. So a lot of customers, they come, like, so let's say you go to Indore, and there will be Grow's peripheral, like, there will be customers coming from like 100 kilometers away and talking about them, and they are expressing that, how much their lives have changed because they started, SIP, or they how they have told about Grow to like hundreds of their, like, tens of their customers. That is love, right? That is when some emotions come out of your customers, that is love.
So my question then is, you're getting it. Great. Why does it not, like, because at the end of the day, financial services, like you said, is a very old sector. And a lot of the things that you're operating in, mutual funds, insurance, stock investing, have been there for decades and hundreds of years. So why isn't love as an emotion more common in this space? Or if I were to put it differently, why are you getting love?
I don't know. So I'll tell you how do we do things differently, right? So as I said, like, we are very, very over-indexed on customer experience. So you go and talk to anybody in the company, and their primary focus would be how to provide the best customer experience. The entire company is kind of, that's like the North Star for the entire company. That's the culture of the company. Everywhere, like, people would be talking about providing
That's
the
what's
best
missing,
customer
because
experience.
that's what's if generally in financial services, customer experience is not front and center, right? It's like you started by saying that we wanted to create like a pull based and not a push based.
Yeah.
And for the large parts of history, financial services has been a push based model where the customer experience is often given like the backseat
Yeah.
in terms of like priority versus, and I think that's where
See,
you
there's
hit the
also
nail.
this industry economies, right? So uh, the way financial services was kind of sold is through distributor. So there's a manufacturer, there's a distributor, and there's customer. So manufacturer does not serve the customer. Manufacturer serves the distributor, because that's the direct point of contact. Now, what we change is
So it just for the context of understanding, a manufacturer is someone who makes a mutual fund, is an insurer who creates a policy, etc. And the distributor is the platform or the physical
agents,
distributor or the bank
yeah,
which is actually
yeah.
distributing. Cool.
And then there's a customer. And what happened was manufacturers stopped going to the customer, because distributor is the Charlie Munger says, right, whose bread I eat, song I sing. So that's how I think the industry emerged. And distributor served the manufacturer, and manufacturer built for the distributor whatever can be sold, and so on. And Groww, our hypothesis was, we'll build a D2C brand. D2C is like direct to consumer. We'll not have kind of we'll talk to customer directly, we'll understand customer directly, and we will be kind of close to them. And to build that, the biggest requirement is that you need to be a pull brand. You can't be a push brand. And how do you create pull brand? So if you just think about that, creating a pull brand means you have to over-invest in, building a delight for customer talking about you, and so on. So for first like 3-4 years, we hardly did any. Even today, most of our customers are organic. There's a narrative there. We do a lot of ads and IPL and so on. But if you look at the percentage of customers coming through, that is very less even today, right? And why is that? Because of that pull factor.
Thank you for that. I want to switch tracks to you. And I want to bring up this concept of a career ladder. All of us, I mean, if you were to visualize your own career as like, a series of, I think, steps that you took, different organizations, and then you climbed a ladder, and then maybe you stagnated, and then you grew, and then you did something else, etc. How would you look back at your career ladder that led you to founding Groww?
Yeah, a lot of luck. There were a lot of decisions, and
What was it like? I mean, you graduated from IIT Bombay.
yes.
And then did you start working after that?
Yes. So I graduated from IIT Bombay. There was a startup that came for campus. I joined that. I coded for like around 6.5 years, worked on algorithms and hardcore tech and so on. I did a student startup, but that was like few months of kind of effort, but that's...
What was it, may I ask?
It was a medical embedded system. So I got allergy in IITB because of pollen and all. So it was very difficult. So we tried to build a device that can detect allergens in the atmosphere, and then warn patients, that...
Does something like that exist today?
I think so. I forgot about it. Like there might be, there would be definitely, because it's a real problem, I feel.
I haven't seen it. So if that exists, so I'm only asking you this because especially in a city like Bangalore, which is considered by many to be the pollen capital of India and allergy capital of India, it would be like, so your idea seems still valid.
So in fact, when so in Bangalore around 7 years back, I started getting that again. And we were like somehow lucky. My wife discovered a plant outside our house that was the cause. And we removed that and I was perfectly fine. It was just like it was a accident, lucky accident. But I think this is a real problem.
Okay.
So anyway, so I've joined Ethium. It stands for I Think Therefore I Am. Very cool startup at that time. Came very early to the campus and joined there. Did a lot of product management plus coding, right? Real coding.
What did the company
So
do?
it was a video IP company. So so let's say you are watching a video at that time. Let's say Samsung Galaxy came with so when you're watching video on your phone, it is getting compressed and decompressed.
Got it.
So that's the kind of algorithms that encryption algorithms, deblocking algorithms, and so on. So then I quit and started a company called EduFlix. It's an ed tech company. Idea was, again, I'm very selfish when it comes to building products. So when I was studying for JEE in my small town, there was no IITian around, there were no teachers. So I subscribed to this course called Brilliant Tutorials, which was a text-based
I
and
did
so
it
on.
too once upon a while.
Yeah.
Trying to IIT, that's another matter.
So idea was, can teachers create videos and students can buy those videos? And again, I was working on video domain, right? So I thought, let's employ this kind of technique in video streaming. So we built this video streaming platform, co-founder from Ethereum itself, and we built that. And then we realized we are a bit kind of too early in the market. There's no the streaming bandwidth and everything. This was 2010, 11, and so on. And so we pivoted to pen drives. So ship pen drives to customers, and then it was helping, but then
This sounds like Byju's in reverse, because Byju's used to send out CDs and then they evolved to this thing. But okay.
So
How
I
long did you
remember
do
going
this?
to Byju's classes to see how he teaches, and I still remember, like, it's very long. He used to take CAT, I think.
That's right.
CAT. I still don't remember. Sorry, just
How long did you do this?
it was for 3 years,
Okay.
and
Is that after which that you joined Flipkart?
yes. So we shut it down. Then I joined Flipkart.
As what?
Flipkart joined as a product manager for marketplace, or built Flipkart marketplace. Flipkart was moving from retail to marketplace. So I was very lucky there again. So I've been lucky all the time. And then I started something called Flipkart Quick, which was like a quick delivery service. We realized that, customer भी कोरमंगला से order कर रहा है, seller भी यहीं पे है, तो why not, connect them directly? And that was
Again,
the idea.
something ahead of its time. Or there is always products that are ahead of their time and then don't succeed because
maybe. And there was also org problems. So Flipkart at that time was also like a very kind of
Yes,
large
I
org
remember.
and so on. And this was a very small thing. And a lot of org changes happened and so on. But then thought about Groww, so found very
So
crazy.
what was the trigger for Groww? For you to leave Flipkart and to found Groww?
So when I joined Flipkart, I had deadline of 2 years that, I'll work for 2 years and again startup. It lasted 3 years though. I worked there for 3 years. So it was decided that I would get out and start. And it was a matter of finding the right idea. When you do second startup, you become a bit more kind of,
fully
logical
agree.
and...
I fully agree. The first one is very idealistic.
First one is more like passion. Ki ye maza
That's
karna
right.
hai.
And you
Fir
make a lot of mistakes.
दूसरी बार
okay?
you start thinking ki market size kya hai, co-founders kaun hai, ye kaisa hai hoga. So all these kind of things. So it took almost 1 year in kind of figuring this out. Found very, very solid sort of co-founders. Again,
You have 3 co-founders.
3 co-founders. And
Were they all also working with you in Flipkart?
Yes. So Harsh and I know each other for like the first company, Ethereum Systems. We worked together there. Neeraj used to work with me. Ishan, I worked closely with Ishan, and like always philosophy in second is always like hire better than yourself. Like, so every co-founder that we got was like better than like raise the bar of the team and so on, right? So that is how like Groww started.
So, this is your, in a sense, your third startup then. Like, if you
Second,
count.
I think first one is
Okay.
more like, it's like us time pe you don't know, like .com, everybody was doing startup. Either roommate,
I get it, yeah.
neighbor is doing startup.
You said that you always wanted to be. Now, I know that you grew up in Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah.
I think you grew up in a place where I think you went to a school which was, I think you were the first batch in the English medium school,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
and stuff like that. And yet you said that you always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And, you just said that like, even when you joined Flipkart, you were very clear that you would do it for 2 years. And then, so where was this urge to become an entrepreneur coming from? Was it coming from your family? I mean, like, where did it come from?
No, family actually wanted me to become an IAS officer. So my Naniji actually created this Ashirwad, IAS Bhav. So we had this tradition, okay, sabere उठ के पैर छो सबके और फिर भगवान की पूजा करो और फिर school जाओ.
And then she would bless you saying that become an IAS
Bhav,
officer.
and I still feel guilty about it. And I don't know how It was not planned actually. I don't know. Maybe I just wanted things kind of to be under control. Like, you have independence and so on. Job. Nobody has done job. And so my father is a farmer. He was also like a sarpanch of the village and so on. So uh, job probably was not meant for me.
And if you look at, let's say, the areas that you worked in, right? Like it's video compression, encryption, to then you move to Flipkart where you're doing a marketplace, then financial, education in the middle, and then financial services, right? If you look at, with the benefit of hindsight, at these choices, what is there anything common to them?
Tech.
Is there a pattern?
Yeah.
Tech is always okay. But how did you end up from so the first two, I mean, including the allergy one and the education one, you said was because you were trying to scratch an itch that you had yourself as a user.
Yeah.
Was Groww also something similar? Did it emerge out of something that you felt personally as a problem?
So I'll tell you. So I started investing in college, like around 20 years back, actually. And it was again very pure luck. Like, again, my one of my wingmates got an internship in a company and that was listed. And I was like shocked. Ki aisi company list hoti and you can buy its shares, which was like very amazing. And I started investing. Well, investing is like a rabbit hole. But when you get into it, you read a lot and you kind of then, it's very exciting, right? And then at that time, for account opening, I went to ICICI Direct का office and पहले तो आपको चप्पल में जा रहे हो like it was kind of, it took some time, paperwork and so on. And then when we were thinking, four of us at Flipkart, कि financial services में what like is there a scope and so on, and then we looked at the data of penetration and everything, right? Again, as I said, like in second startup you get very logical कि अच्छा market क्या है, like so you say okay, in Flipkart we talk about belly of India, like great middle class of India, like 300, you can say 200 or 400, like it does not matter to me actually. But at that time there were 20 million MF investors and it did not make sense. So there were some dots connecting there, but I think primarily it was, we also looked at the Nifty 50 market cap and realized, where are the profit pools? Where are the 35% of the market cap, 40% of the market is financial services. So from all the sides, it looked like,
Other than financial services, did you folks consider any other sectors? What were
so
they?
mostly consumer, so education was one of the things, but then Harsh had also done.
Well left.
Yeah. So I'm still passionate about education. I think it, and that's why in Groww, education is one of, so a lot of our investments actually go in education, right? We launched Groww we started Groww in 2016, but I started writing blogs in 2015 itself. The first few blogs were like 1 year old. The Groww digest that we send today, which is like 10 million plus, 12 million plus monthly active, that was before Groww.
You started it.
Yeah, I started, yeah. So I was sharing the links and then writing, and then Harsh started sending, and then we had a dedicated team for that.
So if you were...
I still write sometimes, by the way, on...
Because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at your career ladder, what advice would you give other young folks about who want to start up, etc.? Like, I mean, do you see a pattern in what you have done? And like, would you want to offer any advice on what people should think about when it comes to starting up, succeeding, etc.?
Not too old and wise to give advice. And I think it's not good to get pattern from one sample. I think what worked for me was, like, I think crazy people around me. Like, I've been grateful for all the good folks around me, like, right from my parents, my Nanaji, Naniji, and my friends I got, and then my co-founders and everything, right? So I think the best thing is, like, surround yourself with people who care for you and care for them also, right?
Got it. Would it be fair to say that working at Flipkart also added that additional dimension of looking at a large potential market at scale and as a platform and stuff like that? Because I think somewhere you've said that you also wanted to build a Flipkart, but for investing.
Yeah. So see, Flipkart was growing crazy at that time. And I don't think any other startup was kind of at that kind of a scale. So if you want to learn scale at that time, Flipkart was the best place to be. And second thing, talent density at that time at Flipkart was amazing. Right, everybody around you was super smart.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely right. Like, being in an organization that kind of expands your thinking with
Yes.
smart people, with its own ambition, etc. Then I think that was the additional spark. I mean, again, like, and I'm saying this as an observer only, that connected to everything that you had done, I think it probably, like, unlocked, and of course brought you with your co-founders as well. I think, I'm just looking at some of the research that we have, and you said that, when you started Grow, you and your co-founders, the idea was not to build either for the current market or for a few years into the future, but for the long term, right? Could you take us back to when you were starting out, what that meant when as co-founders you were discussing and you were saying that, look, we need to build something for the long term. What were some of those either constraints or visions, etc., that you said this is what building for the long term means?
So
Because generally, and the reason I'm asking this is that when founders are starting up, yes, they do have a sense of this thing, but most are thinking, what will the next 1 year look like? Like, will we be able to raise money? Will we last, like, to our, like, from seed to series A, etc., and stuff like that? What were you folks thinking when you were thinking long term?
yeah, so one thing that so we are very influenced by, so because we've been investing, right? So it's always like investing is always for long term and so on, right? And what we realize is it's very difficult to build a very well meaningful company in a very short term. And I think that was the primary purpose. Like, you can't build a very solid organization which is enduring. Like, you want organization to last beyond you. Like, I won't be the CEO for like ever, or I won't be running Grow forever, right? Somebody else will be running. And if you think from that perspective, and so also if you look at the impact, right? So let's say last 7 years of impact, would Grow create bigger impact in next 7 years? The answer is yes, it should, right? And then beyond that 7 years, yes. So overall, I think
So where does this lead you to? I mean, as co-founders, when you were saying that we need to, like, what decision did that mean that you said when you were starting out that we need to raise enough money?
No, so first year we were like very, very relaxed. Like 2016 we quit. First we decided कि पहले तो सोचेंगे करना क्या है. And lot of VCs would also reach out कि what are you doing? And we were like अभी तो we don't know कि क्या कर रहे हैं, तो we don't. And it took us 1 year to figure out how would be the path will be, what will be the sequence of products. And
1 year
so on.
after quitting Flipkart.
1 year after quitting Flipkart.
What were you guys doing during that?
बहुत सारे, we were doing a lot of experiments. We were talking to customers. We were like on the road, and a lot of times we would go outside PVR and talk to customers. We would have a lot of WhatsApp groups, with our friends and colleagues, and कि क्या problems है उनकी. तो basically at a very fundamental first principle level, we were thinking कि problem क्या है, right? And then we came up with this, कि ऐसा sequence करेंगे. थोड़ा sequence maybe it can change later, but this is how I think it would work. And it kept building, and धीरे compound. So again thought process was like financial services में compound करना ज़रूरी है. Like, you can't be like it's not like e-commerce कि let's launch, let's do a big bash and then it works. In financial services you need to gain trust of the customer, so it will be slow, right? But we are lucky. First month we will think if we get 100 customers in this month, we should be good, we should be happy. And in that month we got 600, which was like beyond our expectation. Next month again growth, next month again growth. And then for every month we will meet, अच्छा इस महीने क्या कर सकते हैं customer के लिए that will give us growth. Just this simple question: why is customer not coming us? Why is customer not happy? Why is customer going out from Grow? These are like very simple questions. Every engineer would also know. If we launch this would be fine. So we did not even have Android app till December 2017. We got So we launched that. Then again came growth. Then customers started saying कि direct रेगुलर क्यों कर रहे हो. फिर हमने सोचा यार डायरेक्ट कर देंगे तो फिर पैसे कैसे कमाएंगे. देयर इज नो मनी इन डायरेक्ट म्यूचुअल फंड. एंड देन वी रेज मनी. And then
How long did you take to raise your first round from starting?
So first was angel round. See, angel was like very fast. Mukesh and Ankit, and they were very kind enough to kind of just give without idea, without anything. They gave. Then we got to YC. So वहाँ पे was in YC it's relatively easy to raise money. And then Series A came in, I think 2019 beginning, Jan 2019. Which was also related. So touchwood, like in fundraising, it worked for us all the time.
Again, like you've said in the past that when you and your co-founders went to investors, many of them laughed at your idea of the product. Why was that? Like it looks like financial services. Was it because it was too crowded? Was it because they couldn't make sense of what your vision was? And I think the corollary that you said is therefore it's super important to know what your customers want. So what did you know that the VCs were unable to see?
No, I think see, it's not their fault. It's like they had seen a lot of, and it happened in the previous startup also. They have seen a lot of failures in this space, right? So when I was at Flipkart and I was doing research of mutual fund apps, there were like 40 apps I counted. I shared with my team also 40, and some of them were funded as well, right? So we were like, अब just imagine कि 40 apps देख चुका हूँ मैं, and then 41st is coming. Decent team, अच्छा Flipkart में काम किया है, थोड़ा 4 लड़के हैं, they are good and so on. But why 41st will work and why 40 startups will not work and so on, right? So that's how I think you will see what was contrarian was the thesis of delayed monetization, like that another contrarian was that this product is very high retention product. Again, coming from like have been building consumer products. So in consumer product, again, low CAC, high retention, high engagement, customer love. If these 4 things are taken care of, the probability of monetization is very high. It's just that delayed. But these 4 are very important. If you're high CAC and you say I will do delayed monetization, sorry. If you have very low engagement or low in retention and you say delayed monetization, does not work out because you're building a leaky bucket. Or if your customers don't love you, right? Or if your operation costs are very high, that does not work, right? And typically when you raise money, you want to spend. And we were like, money was always in the bank. We never spend money.
Thank you for that. Switching to mental models, you've said that like you're a lot of what Groww seems to have done, your own beliefs seem to be driven by first principles rather than looking at what others are doing. You also said we ignore competitors, right? What is your view about competition and building, etc.? If you say that you're ignoring competitors, what guides you? And I think one answer to that I think is already come out is customers,
yeah,
right? Is there anything else?
That's the only thing. Yeah, I think if you continue building for the customer, keep your business like healthy, the 4 or 5 things that I told, right? Continue focusing on customer and think long term. I think if you take care of these few things and don't get swayed by what is media saying, what is competitor doing, what is happening, what are the narratives that are existing around you, I think you'll do good. There's a high probability. See, success, there is no guarantee of success if you do this X number of things. So there is a good probability of success is what kind of, it's possible.
At Groww, are there mental models or first principles that you find yourself, using frequently when you're faced with, I think, complex problems, etc. and all that?
Yeah. So we have something called Groww Code. I wrote it like, a unique way in which Groww works, right? And how decisions are taken Groww, for example, right? You over-index on customer. If there is a doubt, the answer is no. And all those kind of things we won't do kind of anything which is not good for customer.
Are there like a set number of points in that?
Yeah, there are like 5 important It talks about like leadership. It talks about decision making at Groww. Reversible versus irreversible decision. At what point do you need to kind of consult versus what kind of things you are like, it's like given and so on. So it's like very well detailed out kind of.
When did
code.
you write this?
So it's like 4 years back maybe. And
And the true test of something like that is how often have you felt the need to go and edit it?
so
add
not
it,
yet edited. So now we are editing few tactical things like, for example, now rigor. So 1 year back, when company after WFH, we realized that the rigor reduced a bit. So we brought a lot of rigor. So what are the, and also once the company grows, largely people are not looking at you all the time, right? And you need to create rituals and systems to kind of implement that Groww code. So then you keep adding points which enhances the kind of sustains those principles through rituals, which are easier for people to understand. Then quality came another thing, like, if you are customer obsessed, quality is important. So what does that mean? So for every product, you need to have a pre-mortem, or you need to have, let's say, back office. Back office means आपने customer journey decide कर ली, but operations की journey define करी कि जो watch कर रहा है. So if customer is going through and if he's stuck, if customer is coming and telling you, then it's not customer delight. But if there is an ops person who is watching kind of, the entire thing, that's like, that's the back office. And then Groww code will have, okay, if you are a product manager, think about this also, not just that.
Got
Those
it.
kind of things.
How would you describe how you, I think, collect or assimilate or store knowledge? Do you have a process, or is it loose? Like, you come across something, it's filed away in your head, or is there something more structured?
No, I have a process, simple process. So I read a lot, and one thing is I keep highlighting.
Do you read physical books or Kindle?
Kindle. So there's a lot of highlights. Number 2, I make notes every day. Every night before sleeping, I have a diary, and I keep writing.
This is a physical diary.
Physical diary. And then like every day I write those. I keep in my app, in my notes, there are a bunch of folders, so which I call them cache and question. So for example, there's one thing called this is write open, right, which is like cache, where wherever I get some idea, I just write it down. And there's another
So
one.
what is cache? Cache has to do with cache management? Is that?
No, cache is like caching, right? Like putting some idea.
Oh, okay, like that. I thought like cache as one aspect of your operations, like cache management. or
I
something.
don't
Got
get
it.
into that. So there are other folks who look at the business and everything. This is like caching your ideas, right? There are questions. So what are the kind of, so when you're free, what are the kind of questions that I need to think about? Then there is another folder which is like all the important decisions of Groww that are like, we need to take in next 6 months. And like you keep thinking.
The part about adding, I get, where a lot of people get stuck in or forget to do with the equal amount of discipline is coming back to it.
Yeah.
Because you may put a question or you may put an idea, but if you don't go back to it, then it just stays there. So what is your method to
I
go
think it's
back
fine.
to it?
I think it's fine. So one thing that I tell people is like, don't worry too much about it. Like, just few days back, somebody was asking, Lalit, I read so much, but I keep forgetting. So what? It's okay. If you're writing something and if you're never reading it, so what? It's okay. Sometimes you will. And even if you don't, just writing was very good exercise to put your thoughts down. If you read somewhere sometime later, which is also good, fine.
Is that why you're writing in your diary? Because that's a strong...
Yeah, I think writing, see, a few things like it also keeps you happy, right? I for example, I write about things like, it's like a gratitude, right? What was good thing that happened to me today, right? And if you write that, it also reduces stress, by the way. It's very selfish reason. And then you write, what did you learn today? And you find one idea, and then
it's almost like a defragmenting, brain
exactly,
dump
right?
kind of thing at the
Defragmenting.
end of
So
the day.
you find one topic and you maybe write a 2-page on that, like, and this just for you. You're not probably sharing with anybody, but just writing it down is like a kind of a good.
When did you start this habit?
It's been long. I don't recall, but I think it's been quite some time.
Okay, that's very interesting. I think in one of your earlier interviews, and I think this is probably connected to what you just said, right? You said discipline is one of the most overrated virtues. Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of other virtues which are like very important. Having fun in doing is like the biggest virtue I feel, right? Having servicing others is one of the biggest virtues. I don't know how discipline got into kind of one of the highest virtue. I think it has hurt us more than kind of it has served us so far.
Why is that? Is it because discipline prevents people from being creative?
Yeah, I have nothing against discipline, by the way. I'm just kind of
No, I'm not implying that. I'm saying that, but why? When you say that it's hurt us more, or like in any other.
So I watch my daughter going to school, and they have fixed set of subjects, and she can't over-index one subject or the other, which is very big disservice to kids, right? If you love biology.
How old is she?
She's 14, right? I think
Do you have just one kid?
One kid, just one daughter.
What's her name?
Avni. So that's just an example, right? In way, so OKR we were talking about, right? OKR is now I have seen in past organizations.
Fully agree. We've tried to implement OKR twice and failed 2 times.
And so I had to remind people, OKR is a process. OKR is not the end to itself. So if discipline becomes end in itself, right, then it's a problem, right? Discipline is good in a way of kind of hacking your body. Okay, you don't have to think, now I have to go to office. I have to go for.
It's a habit.
It's like a habit, right? So if that is, but if it becomes like, it's kind of an end itself, then it's kind of probably not. Our school system is like biggest example of that, I feel. Okay. Coming 9 to 5, right? 9 to 5 office है. वो बहुत पुराना ज़माना था जब ज़रूरत होती थी उसकी.
Got it. What are you good at?
I'm good at I don't know, maybe coming up with intuition. I'm good at intuition, and then also finding good people, and that has helped me a lot. Like I can assess people really well. That's what I feel.
So as CEO, what are some of the most important things that you feel you add most value to Groww?
I think decision making, long-term decision making, right? So, and hiring, like getting good folks in the company.
What's your, do you have a method, or
Yes.
do you for finding? Please
Yeah,
tell
again,
us.
I wrote that method, like, what is the way to hire and so on. Like,
There's like a hiring process inside.
Yeah.
Can you tell us
It's a
something
very simple
about it? Yeah.
process. Like, it's a very simple process. Like when you're hiring somebody, it's also for their success. Like, you want them to be successful, and Groww will not become successful if people there are not growing, right? So like if everybody is growing, Groww will grow. So what is the success factor for that person you are hiring, right? What is, just assume, so let's say you are hiring manager, you have to write what is the success factor for this, like in 1 year, what will make this person, based on that, okay, what are the competencies that this person should have, or the visibility of those competencies in next like 1 year. Then you identify people who can judge those competencies. Lalit, maybe he can do product thinking, or this person can do long-term thinking, or this person can check customer obsession. You identify this. And then you have independent discussions. And discussion should not be like interviews, because that person is also, again, these are a very idealistic thing, and practically kind of things change and so on. But, and then people who interview, they get together and what we call debrief. A debrief happens with a hiring manager, and then we have a kind of a subjective criteria, and then also an objective rating system, 1 to 4. 1 means I'll put my foot down not to hire this person. And 4 is like this person should be in Groww. 3 is like soft hire, and 2 is like soft not hire. And then people discuss, and then hiring manager takes the call that, this person is hired or not hired.
If I were to ask you if you're an optimist or a pessimist, I think the answer is very clear.
Entrepreneurs can't afford to be pessimists.
Okay, that's I fully agree with you. Are there risks that opens up, because you always have to be optimistic, and and even during the tough times, and I'm sure there have been tough times, like in whatever context, either at Grow or before, etc. There is this need to always be the optimistic person and never be able to, I think, admit to anyone, perhaps sometimes even your spouse, that that you're not feeling good, and you're feeling pessimistic, because once in a while they may happen. Has that ever happened to you, or are you just essentially optimistic in life?
No, I'm like a stoic. So I have this, I'm not very happy and I'm never very sad. I'm like everything will pass, right? So,
I think you
and I
said this
also
before, right?
Huh?
All problems can be solved, everything will pass.
Yeah.
Where is
So
this coming from? Where is this philosophy coming from for you? Like,
been reading a lot and also developed things. So the kind of things that I have like been through, right? And they make you very kind of different person. So the baseline is very different. So I uh, come from a family which is like very very humble and very kind of modest background. And my Nanaji, I mean, he took care of me, and he always used to say, "Sada Jivan Uच्च Vichar," like simple living, high thinking. And हमेशा मैं यही सोचता हूँ कि whatever is it is bonus. Like whatever right now it is bonus. So जितना bonus कर सकते हो उतना करो, और फिर नहीं होता तो then there's nothing, kind of nothing to lose basically, right? So that's like also
Right.
influenced by a lot of readings of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and all
what
those.
I mean, you read a lot. What do you typically like? I mean, do you largely read non-fiction? Do you read fiction?
No, I read
What-
everything. So I read everything, whatever comes in my hand.
And what is that like? I mean, typically, when do you read? How do you find books? What?
So discovery process itself is I enjoy that process also, right? Going to reviews, looking at like somebody recommends something, and then I will read about the book, about the author. There's a very very big top of the funnel. Like I'll start reading maybe 30 books in a month, and then probably just drop them like in first chapter, second chapter, and then there will be some books. Maybe I'll finish 4 books in a month max.
How long did it take you to accept that it's okay to leave a book after the first chapter or second chapter?
So that is, I'm lucky. Like I left that guilt of kind of when I used to read physical books, there was a lot of guilt, but I moved to Kindle like long back. And उसके बाद तो फिर कोई guilt नहीं है. Like you don't see
That's
the,
very interesting. It's the first, because it's the first time somebody's verbalized that the guilt of leaving a book unread is much easier on Kindle, because you can just swipe it
Yeah.
away and
Yeah.
move on to something else. But a physical book,
Yeah, and at any given time, I'm reading 4 books, right? Because like
may I ask you what you're reading these days? What are the books that you're reading?
so, let me check. So right now, I'm reading a book called one book is Superhuman. It's on longevity. It's another.
Oh, that's
called-
is that by Peter Attia?
Peter Attia is the Outlive, which
Oh,
I read
Outlive,
like
yeah.
around a month back. I read.
I think
that.
okay.
Then I'm reading a book called Strategic Intuition. It's the book, and then is an old essay. Why don't we learn from history?
You read all of this on Kindle for the iPhone, or do
No,
you
no, I
actually?
have a
okay.
Kindle, yeah.
Okay, we are just
No,
looking at
and
your Kindle list.
So
on
when
this.
I'm traveling, when I have free time, I start reading on iPhone as well.
All right.
But I have multiple Kindles.
Okay, great. You said that one of the biggest challenges for an entrepreneur is learning how to manage their energies,
Yeah.
right? How do you do it? And how did you come to this like realization that managing your energy is an important thing that you need to do consciously?
When did I come to know? Because when did I realize? When I see a lot of startup founders, doing too many things, and also like after a point of time, you also realize what is the best use of your time and your energy, right? Because it's not your growth, just your growth now. It's like company. There is a value that I am adding to the company, and that has to be optimized.
To put it even simply, grow needs your energies.
Yeah, and yeah, so and you can't be doing everything, so you need to manage energy. So I don't really know when that happened, but
But how do you manage your energy? Do you have any kind of a conscious process of awareness or feedback loops where you know?
yeah. So in a week, I do audit of my calendar. We night in writing that also kind of helps me. Was this day fully utilized, and what is the plan for the next day and everything. And I also get out of a lot of things. Like I try to reduce the number of things that I am getting into, which also helps a lot. And then get into things only when it is like required. So those are the kind of things which kind of being very very harsh on being very ruthless on your prioritization, right?
That's an
Kind
important
of.
founder transition that you must have made, right? Because in the early days, you would be involved in everything and you rush to,
So
do
not
everything.
really actually. In early days as well, like I have been kind of I have had this concept that there are better person than you to kind of do certain things.
The benefit of having four
Yeah,
co-founders
that also,
starting
and
together.
not just even on my leadership team, right? And if I look at them, they are better than me, like magnitude of order better than me on certain aspects, right? And it's just like it's their job, and they are experts in doing this.
What does your typical weekday look like?
My typical weekday is like a bunch of external meetings that
Like
I do.
when does it start? When does it end?
Okay, so I start early around 8:30. Till 11 I get my me time because sub late aate hain, right? People engineers start like
So you get to miss the traffic and you get me time. That's
me
two
time, yeah.
bonuses.
So
Yeah.
so read and then think
Just for
about.
everyone, just think this is like, your office is on Sarjapur Road and you live in Belandur.
Yeah,
Like if you cross 8:30 or 9, then it's, I'm sure your travel time must be going up
yeah,
by 2x.
yeah, easily. But this is good. So that is so 8 to 11 is like thinking time, reading time, and so on. Then from 11, like it's like very very kind of it becomes very hectic till like 5 I check out, and then I go home, I take walk and take calls. So from 5 to 7 is like online time, which is like mostly calls, and from 7 to 8:30 is like family time. 7 you have dinner early, we do early dinner. By 8:30 everything is done. From 8:30 you start like preparing for sleeping, like writing, and I sleep by 9:30, 10. Wake up at like 5 o'clock. And that's how the schedule
Do you
is.
work out
I do
or
yoga.
exercise?
I do meditation and yoga. I don't work. I don't do exercise.
Hey, great. Talking about people and hiring, I think that's another thing that you've said that, like, in the early days, nobody wants to join you, but then later on, a lot of people want to join you. And one of the most key skills is learning how to filter the right people into the company. And you alluded to this earlier as well, which is that one thing that you're good at is hiring. What kind of people succeed at Grow and what kind of people don't?
Yeah, very good question. And this is a lot of candidates also ask me this question. The number one is if if you don't have customer obsession, it's very difficult to ऐसे बोलते हैं ना कि 100 गलतियां माफ ग्रो के अंदर, but this is not acceptable if you kind of take customer for granted, right? Number two, ownership. So Grow is also very non-hierarchical, non-bureaucratic company. Like, so there are at a very junior level, I interact directly, and then, when you talk, there is no like, okay, you're talking to VP or you're talking to a engineer or an associate program manager, product manager, and so on, right? So ownership is very important. कि आप ले रहे हो कुछ तो आप वो कर रहे हो. You can't make excuse कि उसने नहीं किया, या you can't blame others, which is like not accepted. These are the two major things. And third, which helps, is curiosity. It, like,
You said that that's one of your key attributes as well,
yeah,
curiosity.
curiosity helps. Yeah. Curiosity is,
How do you judge for curiosity when you're having a conversation with someone?
see, there are a lot of things, but there are a lot of ways, by the way. But one simple way is, like, let's say I ask you, what have you done in the past? And then you tell. And then I ask, so I am also in general curious, and you ask another thing. And then he'll, so how many levels deeper can you go? Like, can you go 10 levels deeper? Can I ask 10 questions on one particular topic? If I can't go beyond 2, 3, it's very, very tough. It's very tough to say that you're curious. But if I can, the deeper. So in general, people also say that if a candidate is having like interview with me for 1 hour, that's like a very good thing.
Because they sustain that level of conversation.
Because that can sustain, right? I don't like to ask generic things, ki what is this and what is, like, you go like deep into one thing. Another thing is related to their area also, right? How well kind of they are genuinely curious about it, or is it because they were told to do that and so on, right? So, but there are a lot of other hacks also, like,
Anything else?
apart from this, like, how much are they aware about the domain बहुत सारी चीज़ narrative में ले लेते हैं हम, like, what does that mean? Like, the first level of thinking is, like, in context of grow, like, grow is, grow में ये क्यों नहीं कर देते आप? So lot of people will come. So one thing about consumer companies, everybody has opinion कि ये कर दो आप, right?
Absolutely.
You would also know that. And they will say, okay, so then I'll ask, why
I
should
mean, in the case of the Ken, the most common thing is that if only you guys introduced a per article pricing of rupees 10, your market would dramatically expand and you would get 10 times as many and your revenue would also grow up. It's like by far the most common thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
like, let's come back to
So
this.
let's say you suggest that, why don't you do this? Then I say, okay, let's say we do this. Then what will happen? And then how deeper
Are they able to think
are they
through
able to
the...
think through and so on, right? So
Okay. How would you describe your management style?
that's a very complicated word. I think I am very offhand. Like, I don't. I try to enable people, but
How many direct reports do you have?
I would have around 10, 10. And we don't have like usual like conversations like manager
One-to-ones.
reportee conversation. It's like mostly what is going on and how are they doing and so on. And but they are all better than me, so like there's trust there, right? That they are doing better job and so on, and intervene wherever is required. So if there is a deviation in the start, so if I see that, so grow is supposed to go here, but let's say in their domain it's going slightly deviating, so you come and, okay, this is not the right decision, let's take this decision and so on. Yeah, but in general I'm not a manager person. I'm more like doer. I like building things, and
What is the most recent thing that excited you when you built it?
everything, like, so I'm involved in all product discussions, like design, product. So recently the
And this I must... Sorry, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. Because I wanted to bring up the fact that you do all hands
Yeah.
on YouTube. You discuss your product strategy, upcoming product strategy on YouTube, etc.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just wanted to bring up that fact that's very commendable, because you're doing, you're talking about customer obsession and product building, and you're doing it publicly on YouTube, right? So that's
Like, where our customers are, and I think we are over-indexed on customer feedback. Again, we discuss about these 3 buckets, right? Where it is very easy to build based on what customer is saying, what customer is feeling, what customer is doing, and so on. But that's one very over-indexed part in कि customer को अभी क्या चाहिए. Based on that, we kind of launch our products.
Because I saw one of your recent all hands and I could see all the comments. So the feedback loop, like you said, that's where your customers are, and like, it's very instant on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Because you're saying things, you're getting comments, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, are there people at Grow who are essentially assigned to mining all the
I read
comments?
them.
And
So So I spend 2 hours a day on going through all customer comments, talking to customers, supporting customers. And a lot of leaders are also do that. That's kind of also way of being on the ground and understanding the customer, right? Using the product yourself as well is another thing.
When did you get started on the habit of reading lots of books of different types? Was it
Okay. So I started in school with fiction. We had a library in school and started with that. Then in college, your friends keep reading something. And so fiction was the way I started. And then investing made me start reading investing books, a lot of investing books, and then business books, because you're starting up and you need to learn and so on, which is don't teach you much, but you still read a lot of business books. And then history then psychology, biology.
where did biology come from?
Biology
I mean, all the others are kind of making sense because
so
a lot.
biology was very, I did not like biology in school because of various reasons, and then from 11th standard I kind of dropped it. But then if you look at evolution, biology is a big driver there as well. And then my daughter loves biology, and I was looking at her books, and then this lot of Peter Atava and all these health stuff, right? That
That's
relates,
exactly why I asked you about
relates a
the
lot to
fitness
biology.
question. Yeah.
So it's curiosity, I think, like, you're and also you feel bad that like all these things were so good and kind of you did not do when you were in school or college.
What is your parenting style?
You should ask my kid. It's I spend decent time with her, like, now of course she does not have time, but was very clear that I should spend some time. And right now it is more like a friend. We take walks together, we play together, we go on, we do a solo, we both of us together do a trip once a year. Started that ritual.
Has there been something about the way? Has there been a new habit or an existing habit that you've changed in recent times? Before that, let me ask you: I mean, you do a lot of self-audit, feedback, etc., and stuff like that. Do you also audit and understand your own habits and try to change them consciously?
Not so far. I go in the flow. I am not that kind, like, I don't try to be like super productive or super kind of कि ये भी करना है वो भी करना है, like.
Okay, then that's a great point for me to ask you right now. You're wearing an aura ring, right? Do you audit your sleep?
Yes, I had to, because I kind of got into very bad habit of not sleeping. So college mein you get used to this, like, night outs and so on, and then somehow when I was in 20s,
Youth is very forgiving to night outs. When you're young,
of course, so when you're young, you can do get away with
You're
almost
superhuman,
everything, right?
yeah.
You're superhuman. But then I also got this somehow in 20s that less, I can sleep less and be very kind of, and somehow that habit got in. Now I'm in 40s, and then if you're sleeping less, you'll die very soon. So then Mukesh sent me this book, which is like Hacking Health. And then that's how I got in biology also. I read Why We Sleep and bunch of other books on sleeping also. And realized
sleep is very fascinating.
And the problem is, once that habit kicks in, right, of sleeping less, then it's very tough to train yourself to sleep more. And then it was very important to track your sleep. So that's how I kind of, around a year back, I started tracking my sleep and seeing how much and it has been improving now.
Anything specific that you've done, like other than just following like?
So biggest hack was temperature. Temperature is the biggest hack. Second thing was eating early, very early, right?
So that your body is not stress
digesting. Third hack was
so by temperature you mean like reduce the temperature?
Reduce the temperature. Yeah. that helps a lot. And then these are the two biggest hack, I think. Then there are smaller things like, screen time before bed, and meditation and so on. But temperature is, I think, the biggest one.
Okay, last couple of questions. There's a very famous, I think, long-running BBC show that talks about what 5 music records would you take to a deserted island. Like, we have a version of that, which is what 5 things would you take with you to a deserted island if you're going to be stuck there?
My God. Kindle, of course. And I hope internet would be there. So that phone, internet, so that I can read.
No, I don't think you can do that, right? Because the moment you take a phone, you've effectively taken everything.
No, let's say you stop everything. Just, you should be able to read stuff.
All right, that Kindle covers it.
Kindle covers it. What else? I'm assuming that food and water would be provided and all, right? Yeah, I think I'll be fine.
So you're sorted if you have your Kindle. with you.
I'm a I'm a minimalist. Need very few things in life.
Thank you so much for your time, Lalit. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rohin. Yeah, take care.
Thank you for listening to First Principles, a fortnightly leadership podcast from the Ken Newsroom. If you like our work, please do tell us. Rate or review First Principles wherever you get your podcasts. It really goes a long way for us. The episode was hosted by Rohin Dharmakumar and produced by Anushka Mukherjee. The audio editing is by Rajiv CN, our audio engineer. This particular episode of First Principles was recorded at Sugarline Studios in Bangalore.